Prologue. It was over. The battle had been won. They drew deep breaths and fell to their knees in relief as they watched the last of their routed enemy disappear into the mist. Tendrils of steam rose from the grass as if the very Mother Earth herself was sighing, the remains of the fallen and the very ground itself giving off a grey vapour in thin wisps as the air fell silent. The victors slowly rising to survey the scene, sweat glistening on their skin and blood covering the armour and furs. Then, as they had begun to chatter, slapping each other's backs and picking up fallen weapons, there was suddenly a hush which fell heavily across them, making them stop and look into the grey bank that had covered the escape of their enemy. There, in the simple blanket of nothing, emerged shadows, 6 of them, slow-moving and large, almost giants of men, and they knew the battle had no longer been won. As they approached, their forms began to take shape, striding through the grasses and across the bodies of the fallen. What horses remained whined and bucked, straining to run riderless into the darkening afternoon. They all knew the stories, they all knew who they now faced, and to a man they desired to flee this place, to give away their victory and save themselves. But their pride would not allow them, so they formed a rank, a ragged line of exhausted warriors staring down this new threat. The one in the lead was slender and quick. His rounded weapon gleamed in what little light still existed. He was light on his feet, barely touching the ground as he walked, and legend told that he was so fast in battle he could not be seen. By his side, his brother, precise and deadly, his weapon a contrast with sharp edges and angles, dull and dark. His mask was dark and his eyes glinted inside. Next was the berserker, a vicious ball of energy holding only 2 short wooden stakes. This one preferred close combat and would not be stopped by any number of men. The power of the wind seemed to engulf the next warrior, a brutal force with no visible weapon, but instead a terrible strength. Then, the silent one. He held a staff that looked like more of a tree trunk, and as he walked, the very ground rumbled beneath him. Finally, the mercenary, dressed differently to the others, a man of the sea who brought with him a different way, weathered by his years in assault air and his deadly cutlass swinging by his side. The soldiers had all heard the tales, and they knew what happened to those who stood in their way, but stand in the way they must, as they would face death for desertion, a fate much worse than the honour of falling to these 6 who were beyond the realm of mortals, these 6 who could not be stopped in their quest for the pagan sword.